Well, the US is signalling that it will block a draft resolution at the UN Security Council, which proposes an immediate humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. America's ambassador to the UN said the resolution could run counter to goals Washington hopes to achieve in current diplomacy talks between Israel and Hamas. The UN vote comes as IDF air and ground assaults rendered Gaza's second largest hospital in Khan Younis as non-operational. According to the WHO, there are still 200 patients in the hospital who need to be transferred elsewhere. On that note, let's bring in the Liberal Senator for New South Wales and the former ambassador to Israel, Dave Sharma. Dave, is the US right to block that, in your view?
Well, I haven't seen the text of the resolution, Peter, but I think the basis for any sustainable and durable ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has to involve, firstly, the full and unconditional release of the hostages that are remaining, but secondly, Hamas's removal from military power, because Hamas was the party that broke the ceasefire on the 6th of October, and they've announced an intention to keep attacking Israel again and again in a similar way to the 7th of October. So there can be no durable ceasefire whilst Hamas remains in place.
Is the messaging out of the US mixed at all, in your view, Dave? I mean, because you've got blocking a resolution, or the signals for that anyway, and then Biden being concerned about what's happening in Rafah. I mean, it all seems to be muddy from the US point of view. Is that your take?
Look, it's a complicated conflict, and I think the United States is trying to undertake some quite complicated diplomacy. They, like all of us, want to see an end to this conflict, and they want to see an end to the human suffering. But they're also aware that for us to create the durable conditions for this conflict to end and to set up a more hopeful future for Israelis and Palestinians, it needs to end in a certain way. Particularly with Hamas's removal from power and a reformed and revitalised Palestinian Authority taking over the leadership in Gaza, and the buy-in and support of regional Arab states like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and that's difficult.
Yeah, but it feels like at this stage that Hamas is not going to be removed from power. Are you getting that feel?
Well, I've seen mixed views. I mean, obviously, the remaining Hamas stronghold in Gaza is in Rafah, which is why the Israeli defence are saying they want to target that, because Gaza City and Khan Younis have largely been dealt with. That remains Hamas's remaining stronghold. Now, I think whether they're removed from power sort of depends upon what is put in place to fill the vacuum that's been left by them, and are Palestinian Authority and regional Arab states prepared to step in and fill that vacuum and support a new type of government in Gaza or not? And that's really the focus of US diplomacy right now, is to convince and cajole those countries to play a part.
Couple of local issues to wrap, Dave. Do you think people smugglers see Australia as open for business at the moment?
I think they definitely see us as a soft touch, Peter. I mean, we saw this with the unauthorised arrival of about 80 people and seemingly undetected arrival on the shores of northwestern Australia. And I don't think you can understate the damage that the government's response to the NZYQ decision has done to our reputation as being, tough on people smuggling. I mean, here are some of, murderers, violent offenders, sexual offenders who've all been released from custody, and the government has lost track of them, lost control of them, made no attempt to re-detain the most dangerous ones, despite there being a legislative regime to do so. That sends a signal abroad that this government's not interested in dealing with this, that this government is weak on this issue. And we've seen way too often in Australia's history that people smugglers are very quick to exploit any softening or weakness in the government's approach and reopen their business. And I think that's what we're seeing now.
Yeah, and the immigration minister seems all at sea at the moment too, pardon the pun. And just finally, I know it's a state issue, Dave, before we go, but as a New South Wales senator, how alarmed are you at this asbestos scandal? Another 7 sites identified this morning, some schools going back to COVID times.
Yeah, look, it's affecting a lot of schools too, which is terrible. I mean, it does feel a little like that, where new sites of contamination are found and lockdowns have to be initiated. It seems that all this contaminated asbestos is coming from one single source. So hopefully, that means that there will be there's not going to be any new instances of contamination. But obviously, there's a whole lot of schools, facilities, parklands, playgrounds that have used, mulch, if you like, from this facility, which now has contamination. So I just hope the EPA, the Environmental Protection Authority, can deal with this as quickly as possible.
Dave Sharma, good to talk. We'll chat to you soon.